Look at this, the first 49ers helmet reaction of 2025 training camp with a whole bunch of good news on the injury front. Ricky Pearsall is going to be back probably within a few days, and John Lynch spoke about Jauan Jennings, whom he expects out on the practice field when the 49ers take it for the first time this training camp tomorrow.
Jauan's reported took his physical yesterday. We anticipate, I won't speak for Jauan, but had a good visit with him. Anticipate him being out there. You guys know our feelings on JJ. He embodies what we think a Niners all about. Plays the right way. We love him. And
so you heard John Lynch talk about the fact that Jauan Jennings embodies everything that the 49ers want. Brock Purdy later talked about Jauan Jennings today, and he mentioned 2023, the game at Seattle, Thanksgiving night. Remember, it was like 3rd and 7, throws a 4-yard out route to Jauan Jennings, and it looked like the 3 Seattle defenders all over him would tackle him ahead of the line of the game. Jauan said no, bowled his way forward, first down for the 49ers. They dominated Seattle on that night. So I think that the 49ers are going to get something done with Jauan Jennings, and maybe he's here to play ball. Maybe he's here to practice tomorrow and trust the process, trust that the 49ers are going to reward him with some incentives or with a modified contract. Purdy said that he finds it very important that the 49ers figure that out, and we'll have more details on that front tomorrow. Mentioned Ricky Pearsall a little bit earlier. Ricky had the hamstring strain over the course of OTAs. 49ers played it safe with him at the end of OTAs, and they're continuing to play it safe now. As I said last week when the 49ers put Pearsall on PUP, he reported to the team facility early, took a physical upon his report date, wasn't ready to play on that date, but the 49ers didn't have practice, so they put him on PUP. It's a procedural thing, but they do expect Ricky to be back soon. The way that this is going to work is there's going to be practice Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so there's going to be a 3-day block. 49ers, Shanahan said, we don't want to push a receiver out there for no reason into the first 3-day block. We're going to play it cautious with Ricky Pearsall, so I would expect that he'll be back for the second 3-day block, which would be Sunday. Day off Saturday for the 49ers. So good news there on the Ricky Pearsall front. As far as Demarcus Robinson goes, we're going to see him practice, and the 49ers, they're just waiting to see if and when the league does issue its suspension for Demarcus Robinson. That wouldn't take place until the start of the regular season. Other 49ers injury news is good as well. Ben Bartch, who's on NFI, the offensive lineman, hurt his quad away from the team facility. And Ben is only going to be out for a little bit of time. It's not expected to be the entire training camp for Ben Bartch. Same thing with Yetur Gross-Matos, who had some knee irritation to close OTAs. That's not expected to be a long-term thing. And same thing with Andre Dillard, who's in competition to be the 49ers swing tackle. As far as the ACL guys go, they're all in a similar boat time-wise. Kyle Shanahan actually had one of the more in-depth answers out of this entire press conference when I asked about the ACL update, because I saw Malik Mustafa posted on social media. He was holding some pads and he was headed out to the practice field, and it looks like Malik is doing well in his recovery from the ACL tear that happened in the final game of the last season. And Malik actually retore an ACL that he had previously torn in college. So he has to hit a certain marker date, since it is a redo of that ACL, before he is allowed to get out there. But as far as his recovery goes, he apparently is just absolutely crushing it. Malik Mustafa is ahead of schedule, but the schedule is the schedule, and they've got to play it safe with him. Anyway, I'm going to show the Shanahan clip here in a second. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, though, did say that all of those guys are in a similar boat. That's Brandon Ayuk, that is Curtis Rourke, that is Malik Mustafa, and that is Curtis Robinson. All the 49ers players coming off of ACL tears. They do not expect them back for training camp, but they do expect all of those guys back at some point in the first half of the season. There's an emphasis that it's just too early to put a firm timeline on, week 2, week 3. as far as these ACL returns go, because these are longer range injuries than the injuries of the other guys who are either on the PUP, the physically unable to perform list, or the NFI, the non-football injury list. 49ers did make a signing. It is Equanimeous St. Brown. Veteran wide receiver is going to turn 29 on September 30th. Previously with the Chicago Bears, the older brother of Amon-Ra St. Brown, star receiver for the Detroit Lions. 49ers worked out 6 receivers yesterday for obvious reasons. If Ricky Pearsall is going to miss those first 3 practices of training camp, you're a little short on numbers. We'll see if Jauan Jennings is indeed practicing or if he's just standing out on the field tomorrow. That's what Brandon Ayuk did last year, although John Lynch did repeat a couple times that he expects Jauan Jennings to be out there. He didn't answer the hold-in question directly, though. Somebody asked John Lynch if he expects a Jauan Jennings hold-in, and Lynch just said that he expects him out on the practice field. Either way, if Pearsall's missing a few practices, then you need to make sure that your depth in that receiver room, especially early in training camp, is good, so guys are not overworked, as guys are just going to be getting back into the practice flow of things. So Equanimeous St. Brown is now a 49er, big, strong receiver, 6'4", 200 plus pounds, put up 20 bench press reps at the NFL Combine, which was 90th percentile of all receivers, has been in the league for a few years, and is somebody who the 49ers think will be a good body out there for training camp, who can pick up the system quickly and deliver for them on the football field. That rounds out the 49ers 90-man roster. Remember that they released George Odom just a few days ago, so they had 1 empty roster spot. It goes to the receiver St. Brown, so the 49ers can take the practice field for the first time tomorrow. Fred Warner and Brock Purdy both spoke today. Fred Warner said that he's really ready for D. Winters to take that next step. He thinks that Winters is in very, very good position to take the next step this season, which I think is great news for the 49ers. I think it harkens back to last year when we saw a lot of flashes of brilliance from D. Winters, but I think for him, a lot of the next step is consistency and showing that he can stay out on that practice field, showing that he can stay healthy. Linebacker's a physical position. This is a physical sport and a physical league. Obviously, no more Dre Greenlaw alongside Fred Warner, so San Francisco needs D. Winters. They need Nick Martin. They need a lot of these new young linebackers to step up, because it's not just going to be one guy. You need depth to survive the whole season, and Fred Warner seemed really, really bullish on D. Winters. Then, of course, Brock Purdy spoke today. It's the first day, 49ers report day here at training camp, so you get the defensive leader, Fred Warner, the captain on that side of the ball, and Brock Purdy, one of the captains on the offensive side of the ball, but he is the QB. Purdy recently purchased a home in the Nashville area, and because of that, George Kittle also lives out there in the offseason. He's been able to work with Kittle and Mason Pline, another 49ers tight end, and a bunch of tight ends who work out over at Kittle's barn. Before his Nashville stint here in the offseason, Brock Purdy was in Jacksonville, where he is every offseason working with his throwing coaches, and Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing made the trip down to Jacksonville. So over this offseason, Purdy worked with Pearsall and Cowing in Jacksonville, Kittle and Pline and some other NFL tight ends over in that Nashville area. Of course, Brock also signed his contract over the course of this offseason. And yesterday, flying in here to the Bay Area toward the Helmet, where we do all these iconic updates, yesterday I was just thinking how wild of an offseason it's been. I mean, we went from the drama with Trent Baalke in Jacksonville, because that surrounded the Robert Saleh decision for Jacksonville. Who were they going to hire as a head coach? And they hired Liam Cohen, and that meant that Robert Saleh was available to be the 49ers defensive coordinator after the 49ers moved on from Nick Sorensen. They also fired their former special teams coordinator, Brian Schneider. We went from that to the 49ers big-time roster revamp over the course of free agency. There was Kyle Juszczyk drama. Moving forward into the draft, where the 49ers had 11 picks, to the trade for Bryce Huff, to OTAs and people just making stuff up out of thin air about Christian McCaffrey having lost a step. And then we had all those fun travels over the course of the offseason. And now we're back here in front of the Helmet for training camp. It's just been like, wow, it seems like 10 years ago that Robert Saleh rejoin the 49ers. And that's obviously going to be a huge, huge sight on the practice field tomorrow. Sala with a lot of those young players. And well, I mentioned Christian McCaffrey. Should mention Trent Williams. This time last year, neither Christian nor Trent was really available to go through all of training camp. Trent obviously with the holdout. Christian was at the start of training camp, but then the Achilles came up, and now both are healthy, both are ready to go, and that's what's important for the 49ers here on day one. It is report day at camp. I've gone through all the news. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That's important too, because every single time I'm in front of this helmet, you want to know, because that means that we've got 49ers news. Equinemius St. Brown is on the roster. Good injury news all around. And Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch delivered their season opening presser.
His recovery and how he is as good as it could be. Like, just the way he works, the way everything checks, it's amazing. But it's still an ACL, so you still got to give it the time.
And I think, to add to that, it's a revision. It's one he had previously hurt. And so I think with that, the time element, I think Malik is going to outperform every time, because he's a special athlete, and then he's a special human being who's going to do everything and more. But there is, I think, especially with the revision, just a time element that doctors want to see you get to that puts some. He wants to be out there today, believes that he could be, but we have to kind of
hold him back. It's hard to always give you guys timetables, because timetables change all the time. And then Branch will hold me accountable 6 months later. But when you look into all three of our ACL guys, whether it's Rourke, Mustafa, and BA, they're all kind of in the same boat of the time to come back, which isn't going to be training camp. I mean, it could be, but that would be very surprising. All right, but it'd be sometime in the season, hopefully the first half. And that's what we're hoping. And they're all three kind of in that same area, even though they all did it at different times, have different situations. But they're all about the same